Hello. 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 All right. Yeah, I'm not sure why. Some odd reason I can't see chat on my OBS and I can't see the control panel, and I don't know why. That's not really usually like a problem, right? So I'm just kind of tripping on that. I'm like, okay, guess that's not working right for whatever reason. I have to look into it after. Luckily, I could just pull up the browser control room. I don't necessarily need it, but it's a lot better just to have it, chilling right there, than having to have the an extra tab open just showing me exactly what OBS should be showing me to begin with. So it bugged out somehow. Okay. Am I coming through okay though? Stream's not like stuttering like crazy, is it? Is it actually coming through? Anybody in chat can tell me. It's like 4 of you here. Nope, nobody wants to say. Alright. Remember, you could also just do this. And I can't know who did it. So if you do it, then that's a yes. Is it streaming okay? On your guys' end. You jackasses. Alright. Let's see here. Yeah, because it's saying like weird stuff. Well, it seems okay. You just got here, Duck? How's it running, Duck? Is it working okay? There's some weird stuff that's going on with OBS. I want to make sure it's not messing with the stream. Cool. Alright. I just can't see my chat for some reason in OBS right now, or my control panel. Just some glitch or something. Looks fine. Cool. Alright. Welcome to what is Schizoid Saturdays. I normally see I kind of like screwed it up this time around, because normally on Wednesdays I would have put out like a question, and I didn't realize I didn't until like Friday, and I'm just like, well, it's too late now. Like, it's not even gonna be worth it. I'll probably end up getting like 3 submits at most, and I also hadn't quite grasped how I wanted to ask the question, but I was just like, you know what? Today we can do something else. And my dog. Sorry, my little 4-year-old came in a little earlier than usual, but they're not going to bed yet, so they'll probably be back at some point. They need paper because they like to do arts and crafts, and they like to cut with their scissors and stick stuff to paper and draw cats. And it's fun. Anyway, so I decided, okay, well, I might as well do a deeper dive into the subject I talked about on Tuesday a little bit. And also, some of my meandering, some of my thoughts on my own process of, as I put it, I guess in the title, of like reintegrating the child. And it's if you heard me talking a little bit about it this last, what was it? Yeah, Tuesday. Because on Thursday I just played video games. By the way, there was like 15 people here watching me play for a while, which was pretty awesome. I rarely get even that many on the head empties on Thursdays. So, and they were actually watching whatever weird game I was playing. So, thanks for that. Pretty cool. But just know that on Thursdays when I do play a game, I'm probably, like I said, I'm just gonna pick like 3 indie games that look kind of whatever, and just have you guys pick one. So it's gonna be a poll and a vote every time. So if it ends up being trash, it's gonna be your fault. But I'm still gonna have a good time, even if it's trash. Anyway, so I wanted to talk more about the connection between schizoid sensitivity, and stuff like that. And I had brought up on Tuesday about how the vast majority, if the literature got one thing correct, is the vast majority of, well, at least every schizoid I'm aware of, they have this kind of core sensitivity to usually what some might consider like idiosyncratic things, right? Usually a lot of stuff about a schizoid is generally idiosyncratic in nature, mostly because a propensity for neurodivergence on top of everything. And so they'll have this like strong sensitivity to unconventional things that are unique to them often, right? Unique, and to a certain degree, obviously there's probably more Zoids that have the same sensitivities, but it'll be something unique to their experience, their interpretation, and all kinds of stuff. It won't be like, it usually won't be like a conventional, and I don't like mean to downplay it or anything, but it usually won't be something like well, obviously it won't be interpersonal relationships and connections that they're generally the most sensitive to. People perhaps, well, definitely people are trying to establish it with them against their will. That's like absolutely a sensitivity. One universal sensitivity among schizoids is the autonomy thing, right? This kind of need for autonomy, a need for a certain level of privacy, and so on and so forth, right? It's not just being a private person. It's a lot more than that. There's like a deep sensitivity going on there regarding that sense of autonomy, which I've linked to, you know, growing up ND or whatever in a variety of ways. But as far as sensitivities that are kind of odd, like mine, well, I don't know if it's odd. It's not that it's odd. It's just that like I'm very, very, very internally sensitive to anything that has to do with like kids being abused in any way, like at all. I get like very angry, but also like very, very depressed and stuff. And it's like, it's one of the few things that like can like really set me off, right? And so, and you know, I was talking to my psych too about it further, like why this in particular, and that makes sense, considering my past and so much of other stuff. It's that kid in you, right? That fucking terrified child inside you, that unfortunately, in order to survive, we've consistently neglected in a variety of ways, or forgot about. Because, I mean, what's there to remember if it's mostly just terror and discomfort? But there are still really awesome things in that inner child or whatever that is hard to tap into when you're a Zoid. It's hard to like gain access to. It's like shut away in a vault, like beneath the ocean or something, or in the ground, like the bottom of the sea, I guess that is a better way. It's in the, what do they call that? Like part of the ocean where like shit gets weird. There's like there's a word for it. There's memes about it. I was also gonna say like it's somewhere in the Mariana Trench or whatever. But recently I've been working on like reattaching or reintegrating my inner child. It's been an interesting process. I think it's something that a lot of schizoids can do safely, you know, by themselves at first, if you know, if obviously needed. And one of the things I discussed on Tuesday about how to do that is to kind of, and I'm not a therapist, so whatever, just this is what I did, and it works for me. And it seems that others say it works No, it's like that layer, not Bermuda Triangle. It's that layer, the bottommost part of the ocean, like where all the like creepy, fucked up, unknown, um, like sea life exists. Like the parts where like almost no one could ever even get there, or they could only send like non-humans down there safely. But um, yeah. So one of those things was to externalize the inner child, right? That's how I perceived it. It's to get that kid that's kind of uh, buried inside you somewhere that has all those sensitivities that you might have even forgotten even exists, or only occasionally get reminded, only for it to just go and get like buried again very quickly. Externalizing that child in the sense that like look at that child as something that initially that isn't you. Think about just a child. Think about that child having enduring the kind of past or discomfort or confusion or fear or anxiety or emptiness that you experienced growing up, that kind of eventually led up to the Zoid stuff, or the discomfort that interactions with people growing up, uh, misunderstandings, all that kind of stuff, all that led up to the defenses you have now. Imagine that child enduring that, and then take care of them, because it's the ethical thing to do, right? Like that's kind of how I see it. I'm like, what's the ethical thing to do? What's the moral thing to do when a child is in that kind of position of constant um, self or outside incoming like belittlement and neglect and assumption and so on and so forth, right? You protect, right? You protect, and you have to kind of think of it as there's still this like little person buried inside of you, and the things that initially protected them are now drowning them, are now they want out, and they can't, and some part of you wants them out too. You want them out of that prison that you created unintentionally, unconsciously, trauma based, all that good stuff. They fucking want out. They're banging on the goddamn walls, screaming and shit, but you can't hear them because there's too many layers of brick. And I'm not saying that if you like chip away at that fucking brick, you're suddenly gonna like become a normie or some shit. That's not how this works. But even some of the connection between that child and your current sensitivities, that you sometimes maybe you're even confused as to why you have them, or you've intellectualized a bunch of them, which is okay too. Like you will have like really like a lot of schizoids have really strong convictions about certain things, very specific things, and then everything else is just kind of like apathy and ambivalence toward, or they act in a way. Like I've talked to schizoids that have told me, um, like I'll ask them, oh, if you're in this situation and you're a person that can help, would you? And they almost always say yes, but I just want to get out of there after. Like I don't want people to thank me. I don't want people to parade me just because I, push somebody out of the way of a train or some bullshit like that. Like, yeah, I'll do it. Like that's often the answer I get, and then that's it. Like it's like okay. And I've been in that situation, not the train one, but in situations where I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go ahead and do something, and then if other people, like, if that bystander effect stops, then I just back out, right? Once that should settle. Um, and I always thought, oh, it's because, when I was, well, a while back, I was like thinking, oh, it's because of, we're separated from the situation. We look at it clinically, and it's easy for us to apply ethical notions to like in in-person situations, blah blah blah, or because we went through a lot, we have a high metacognition, and so thus like we can recognize suffering and so on and so forth, right? And to some degree, a lot of that's true, but think about like the kind of stuff that is kind of specific to you that you would go out of the way for, given the chance to protect, to save, to or things that you would, if you had the chance, you would stop, you would speak up against. Think about what those things are, right? Even if you don't understand why in particular. And that's the interesting thing is when I've talked to some Zoids about this that have done like a little bit of the coaching stuff, they'll tell me shit like, oh yeah, well, I'm like, well, why would you do that? Like, what's the reason behind that? It's just like, I don't know. Like, if you still have the belief that so much of this doesn't matter, your life is just kind of a numb void, all this kind of sentiments. Why does it almost like motivation kick in for this particular circumstance, these particular types of things that are unique to you? Why is there a sense of outrage or justice or a sensitivity to unfairness regarding that particular thing? Right? And I think a lot of it has to do with whatever you considered was the wrong that was done to you, even if you've forgotten it. It's the hurt kid in there that's motivating you to be particularly sensitive to these things that you probably were, to a less complicated degree, sensitive to as a kid. I remember when I was really little, I was always really concerned with fairness. Like, it always bugged me. Whether it was like a schoolyard game, whether it was video games that I play with somebody or something, people I don't even remember at all, and or anything like that, or if it was something bigger like a teacher being particularly harsh or contradicting themselves and then pretending like they never did. This sort of feeling of unfairness I was always very sensitive to, and I would speak up as a kid, but obviously, people don't often listen to kids, like, and adults would try to like essentially gaslight you into thinking you don't understand when you do very much understand. In fact, they might not understand what they're doing, and and so I used to get really, I think, like emotional about it. As a kid, I think I would cry a lot. I was talking to my psych too. Like, I was like a really fucking sensitive kid. Like, I grew up for years. I was like a bedwetter as a kid. Like, all this shit, right? And this is prior to like, a lot of that stuff was going on prior to the CSA and things like that to happen. So all these kind of odd fears, thinking UFOs every night. I hid under my blankets thinking like aliens were gonna abduct me. I don't remember why I thought that. I don't remember why I had so many of these sensitivities. Why certain things scared the living shit out of me that were like probably not that big a deal. Why the things my parents would say to try to like make me feel better were not working. And I just like would go to bed terrified at night with thoughts in my mind that I couldn't like deal with. But I don't remember I'm grasping it now, but I don't fully remember what that felt like about those particular things. Like, and I know I was a kid, like who's gonna remember, right? But I don't even remember where it started, why I was scared of it, why it was something that kind of continued for a really long time or took different shapes as well. Like some of those fears, right? Like here's a good example, right? So when I was little, I was scared at night about being abducted. And so every time I heard an airplane, a helicopter, any weird noise outside, I would be like, that's it. They're coming to get me. I'm going to get like pulled out of my house, right? Um or that some kind of like monster was going to get me, and then I could use like some inner strength to like will them away, right? And I would imagine all this crazy shit just to deal with the fear and the anxiety. And then as I got older, I still had a lot of these kind of tendencies, but they got more complex, right? It started becoming like a paranoia, like the paranoia or the fear started getting like reflected onto people and things like that, right? And that sensitivity sort of still remained to it, but as I got older, it became less a sensitivity and more of a annoyance, a frustration, a like a dread to have to be around it. And then it got numb, more and more numb. That's sort of that sensitivity I had as a kid just get more and more numb, brick by brick by brick by brick. And now that I've been working at this for a bit, like I'm starting to hear. It sounds weird because obviously it's not literally, but I'm starting to hear that kid inside of me, like going like, you know, because I'm chipping at the bricks. And at first it was like scary, but now I want to just keep pulling the bricks off, but I got to do it carefully. And methodically even, which is fine. And I'm starting to like really connect a lot of my actions, my motivations, that I didn't quite understand why I had them. Why does this bother me? Why is this such a big deal to me? I don't understand. Something in me goes, this is matters, but I don't feel that emotional about it, but I feel compelled to do something about it or say something or work on it or avoid being a part of it, right? For like specific, like internal sort of ethical ideas and codes. And it's just so wild that these sensitivities in combination with like, you know, the years and years of just defense and disassociation from like that array of strong feelings and that sensitivity, and through the process of sort of coming up with logical arguments in your head as to why those intuitions are logical, consistent, make sense, which they might for sure, but the feeling behind them is missing. And I think those feelings are buried with that child. And as I go through the process, again, I'm finding other more positive things, not just a scary situation. I'm discovering like things I like, things I appreciate, and feeling them more. But they're still my things, right? They're still the weird shit, the idiosyncratic shit that I care about. Because it makes sense to me and it's what matters to me, right? It is my autonomy, my thoughts about how I experience the world. And no one can take that away from me. But at the same time, I wasn't able to enjoy that autonomy. What's the point of having what's the point of protecting your autonomy to a degree, such a significant degree, if you can't even participate in its experience? That doesn't make sense. And with it comes, obviously, not so great shit. Possibly more sadness, possibly some anxiety, possibly a lot of other things that maybe you generally don't feel very much. Maybe some joy. You gotta dig that kid out. I mean, you don't listen to me. It's just because it doesn't just enhance your ability to sort of connect to those kind of stunted or blunted emotions. It also makes it so that when someone is safe enough, right? Another weirdo like yourself that understands where you're coming from, you can actually more easily establish a connection and then appreciate their existence that much more. Appreciate your own existence a bit more as well. It's quite the ride. I wouldn't suggest doing it alone, but you know, just one person maybe. One person support system is probably more than enough for most schizoids. Honestly. Might not always be enough, but it's definitely enough to get started. But if you don't have that, then I don't know. Fucking tough it out, do it yourself. But eventually you're gonna hit a wall. You're gonna need some support because this shit's rough. But ultimately, it's a choice you have to make. That's what I find interesting about it. You don't have to be this null and void and empty for the rest of your life. That's not an inevitable conclusion. And I think a lot of us have like tricked ourselves into thinking it is. I used to do that all the time. I thought it was going to be an inevitable conclusion. I'm seeing more and more that is not the case. Starting to sound like here we go again, starting to sound like a cult leader. Yeah, that's the fucking last thing I need. But I don't know. Jet, tell me, Jet. Who's that kid? Have you met him? Have you met that kid beside you? And it sounds cheesy, but you might have been fucking, you left that fucking kid trapped in the car. You fucking rolled the windows up and fucking left that kid in there and walked away feeling a lot better because you're not feeling how that kid felt or what that kid felt quite as strongly as you might. But the other part of the process that I thought was interesting is that because I've been kind of doing, you could do like a slow drip of this shit. Like think about one particular sensitivity and then just kind of worry about that one in a very like set space and condition, right? And then just start kind of sewing that little sensitivity of a specific kind within like a bigger array, right? But just go real minutia and then sew it to this understanding that it isn't just some intellectual decision you made, even if it feels as if or you think it is because you don't have like a lot of emotion behind it. It is far more emotional than you think. It's just that little fucking guy is not, you can't fucking hear him. Simple as that. I'm starting to hear mine, and it's just some days it's good, some days it's not so good. But it's also let me like, I don't know. I know this is gonna sound like fucking horrible, right? But it's made me like care more deeply about the people that I respect and appreciate exist as well. Yeah, isn't that weird? How that works? Like I don't have to wish for it anymore. It's just like organically happening through this sort of process. It does open you up to a significant amount of different vulnerabilities, but that's kind of what I mean. Why protect your autonomy to the point where you can't even use it? You protect it so hard that you protect yourself from vulnerabilities that could be exploited by yourself, or you perceive them as being exploitable. But it's funny because like it's more likely. Like I have a feeling that like I was protecting myself from like exposing parts that like that sensitive inner kid could like use to gain leverage to climb higher. That's kind of how it felt like when I would have like, especially when I was in my 20s, I used to have like far more like kind of like meltdowns that I would just like keep to myself. That would just like happen every few months or something. Well, the remaining time I'm like generally pretty stoic, and it felt like that inner child or whatever like managed to like get an arm out into like the fucking, you know, just imagine like somebody like breaking a hole in like a stone wall, and then like they push out one rock, and then like the one arm is getting out like that, and it's like I caught sight of it, and then like I was like scrambling to find the hole, like where the arm is. Like I could feel it came out, and I'm just scrambling, like looking around my landscape internally, just being like, where the fuck is that coming from? Where the hell is that? What is this? No, this is wrong. And so like I'm essentially like I'll find it and I'll patch it and I'll fucking just jump more rocks on it. And I'm like, fucking stay down, more rocks. More rocks. And then be like, and almost have a feeling like, what the hell was that? Shh, rocks. You never see the little fucking hands. Help me! Like you just fucking just bombard the general area with stones. It's like counterintuitive to start taking rocks out instead of piling more on after doing it for so many years. I've been going over some of those themes a bunch with my therapist lately. Self-imprisonment, a jailer aspect, shutting down memories and expressions and feelings. Yeah, like schizoids are their own jailers of their fucking inner child sensitivities. That kid is just, I don't know. Gotta do the fusion dance with that kid. Turn him fucking Vegito. But it's making me like, yeah, like I said, it's been really tough, and I've been doing it for like a bit now, and it's also making me stronger, which I find really interesting. It's motivating other parts of me that I didn't think were connected, right? Like, for example, I've been just like working out more. I'm not skinny. I'm still like, I still got my beer gut and everything, but I like, I feel physically stronger, mentally stronger. Uh, my ambitions, even for like the schizoid stuff and everything, they're starting to feel more directed because I'm feeling the reasons for that ambition. It's starting to feel less like, oh, it's just I gotta do it because nobody else is and shit like that, and nobody cares, so somebody has to, like, that's kind of what motivated me, like, for the last the last 2 years or so. But in the last couple of months, especially, like, I I feel like I'm taking hold of that, like, righteous indignation about unfairness that I was sensitive to as a child. And being able to recognize that. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. It's really crazy stuff. Like, most of you wouldn't just, like, I know it's a weird way to put it, but like most of you wouldn't, like, uh abandon a fucking kid that needs your help and has no one else to turn to, right? Like some fucking 5-year-old kid or something, 6-year-old kid. So why would you do it to yours? They're not getting older. They're still like fucking whatever age. Meanwhile, like, you developed without them, left them behind. And of course, none of this is a conscious choice. It's not like one day you decided, oh man, the world is too much for me, people are too much, everything's too much, I can't handle it. I am now going to, like, bury all my sensitivity deep inside of me and forget it ever existed. Like, it wasn't a choice that was made. It's wild. So, I mean, like, I'm having, like, thoughts, like, thinking that, like, my story might not end so badly, which I can't remember the last time I ever felt that way. No, I literally can't. Like, I can't recall a single memory. And then again, I can't recall most of my stuff about when I was really young. So, but I can recall my, as far back as my, like, early teenage years, and since then, at least, I've never felt that way, and I'm starting to feel that way now. It's fucking weird, but it's good. It's really good. I used to say that, like, I've said it before in other streams and stuff. I used to say, that if for some reason, like, another schizoid channel, another person that maybe ended up watching me, but they're more charismatic and they have more money and they're more capable and they end up, like, building a way bigger thing than I ever could and whatever. And, like, I used to say that, like, if that happened, I would just duck out because it's like, oh, the ball's rolling. That's all I ever wanted. It just needed to happen, right? Like somebody else did it better. Good. I'm checking out. But now this stuff feels more than that. Like I wouldn't care. I would just keep doing it anyway. Because I'm getting like an actual like I'm feeling rewarded from it. And this is all connected to being able to find that kid and talk to him once in a while. Sometimes I wonder too, like, how much of those likely neurodivergent sensitivities have essentially like quieted or uh muffled is a better word, the recognition of those traits inside of a lot of schizoids, and some of the traits that would exhibit themselves had they a stronger connection to their emotionality, to their sense of self, what can actually allow them to over time self-actualize or attempt to self-actualize to whatever degree. What another thought I always had is like, how the hell is a schizoid supposed to self-actualize if they can't even recognize what that would even look like for them, right? And I think a big part of that answer is, well, you can't by yourself. You got to get that kid inside you to light some of the way, because he knows, or she, whatever, they know. That kid knows. It's very simple. It's very direct. That kid knows what's bad and what's scary and what's good to them. And you're the adult that can bring the context in. But the fire, the motivation, it's trapped with that kid. That's my experience. I hope I'm making any sense. That'd be really unfortunate if I'm not, because I feel like I'm saying something that could possibly be important to say. But I could also just be saying nothing. I don't know. So yeah, I've even started going back and looking at some of the Zoid literature that is around, and sort of trying to look at it through this, uh, like lens of like, oh, like I'm still very much, I still 100% believe that the people that are the most likely to have these sensitivities and be bombarded with them so badly that this happens to them sometimes are definitely neurodivergent people. You fucking schizos, ADHDers, autists, whatever. I think that's also part of the reason it's so hard to find like joy in things, because again, that's something else. Motivation, joy. It's just all like fucking down there, buried with that fucking kid. And I started thinking about it like this too. Like, imagine that imagine that inner child, shivering, scared, whatever inside you, and then you can't feel them. You can barely recognize it's even there. But then people try to get close to you. People try to actually, like, some of you might have had encounters where somebody, you started, like, some kind of connection started developing, but then like that was terrifying, and it was like no. Or you basically had such a laundry list of things that they would have to like surpass or consistently do, um or otherwise that would be a very viable reason to just distance yourself completely, right? And it almost felt like if I'm using the same metaphor, it felt like somebody like got in your land of fucking rocks and started going, what are all these rocks doing here? And they started like picking them up and moving them. And you're like, stop touching my fucking rocks. Those are my goddamn rocks. I piled them there. You don't fucking touch them. I'm out of here. Nobody touches those rocks. I don't even know why I'm so mad that you're touching the rocks, but I know it's important. I know it's fucking important. That pile of stone that's like, it's keeping something there, and whatever it is, I need it to stay like that. Okay, just and so like I feel like people essentially that's what they kind of do, especially when they actually make it into like some some semblance of connection to you. And I think one of the like I said, continuing that mode, one of the greatest fears is that like they're gonna fucking take all the fucking rocks out if you let them. If you start going, well, okay, go ahead, take all the stones and rocks out that made a giant mound of or thing, and they're eventually gonna find that kid in there. They're gonna discover him, and it's gonna be the scariest thing you've ever experienced in your entire life. And then you have to like make the decision of like pile them back up and bury them again before that happens, or take the plunge. And it's interesting because if vulnerability is what allows a person to gain access to that, right, and some kind of intimacy of a higher grade, and I'm not talking about like fucking or anything, though that could have its difference, but anyway, um, that's an incredibly sensitive inner child you have there. Incredibly sensitive, super exploitable, super vulnerable, fragile as all fucking hell. And the only tools you have to protect that child is to just bury him and keep him away from the world. Because what if that person that manages to find him, what if they turn on you, right? What if they hurt that child again, abuse that child again, like the world felt like it did to you growing up? And because of how sensitive it is, it probably couldn't survive such an occurrence. So I think what I'm doing right now with this is I'm still finding him. I'm still finding that kid, and instead of like burying him, I'm actually like letting him out once in a while and teaching him things like a father would teach a child or a mother. You teach your inner child things. You teach them how to do things. You teach them how to interact with certain things. You teach them the lessons you fucking learned along your zoidy ass path. You teach that child how to fucking survive the world out there. You build them up. You make them strong. You make them healthy. You can do that by yourself or with one other helper or whatever you're comfortable with. be that a psychologist or a therapist. But point is, you build up that kid, you reintegrate them, and they not only do you have the power that was inside of them that you locked away access to a very long time ago, a very, very long time ago, like me, but they get your knowledge, they get your strength, they get your um, kind of ability to just kind of disconnect from your feelings once in a while, to think straight, to stay calm, to not be like affected by things as much as others. You can combine these things. That's how I see it. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm convinced that's the only thing that's ever going to help a Zoid as far as working on themselves. Now, as far as societal stuff goes and advocacy, that still requires shit like talking about it and stuff like that. Because I mean, no amount. This is what's interesting. Like, you are the own change in your world, as they fucking say, right? It's interesting because if you start kind of, I don't know, I guess going through what I'm going through now, you start getting these surges of like motivation and like, I don't know, like a certain like, I don't know how to describe it. But point is, like, I feel like if somehow, and everyone's their own, like I said, I'm not a therapist, but I feel like if more Zoids manage to kind of start doing this kind of shit, it will give them the motivation to advocate for themselves to such a degree that enough of them working together can actually like make some kind of change that is external about the local world around them, so that that inner child can be just less afraid of existing in this world, less battles to be had, less conflicts to be handled. Yeah, I know it's a super sappy stream today, super just goopy. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with my feelings. And one thing that makes me laugh is that like I feel like, I don't know, in another year or two, I'll probably get like somebody's gonna watch my stream and they're gonna be like, that guy's that guy's too animated or too this to be a fucking schizoid. I'm already pretty animated. It's the ADHD, but or I'm too like optimistic or something. I feel like that's what's gonna happen, and I'm gonna lose my Zoid card. It's fucking hilarious. Nah, but see, my thing is like the more I accomplish this, the more I find paths that work for me. It makes sense. I then get those paths, and then I like try to fill in like the different kinds of contexts and experiences from like different Zoids that I've heard, and then I go, how do I get what I did and make it more universally useful to like the Zoids that watch me, and how can I talk about it? What kind of language can I use to make it more universally useful? Sometimes I'm really bad at that. I got a buddy that's really good at it. And yeah, working with them on that has been really a pleasure. Um, so yeah, maybe even if I like, I don't know. I used to feel like, oh, if I get like that's what's so weird. That's like the catch 22 right there, right? It's like if I actually figure out ways to like get better and significantly improve the various aspects of hold on, my little girl's going to bed. Yeah, I'm like looking at my like inner child like I look at her. That's what I'm working on doing. Gross, right? It sounds so gross. I would have been disgusted by such a conversation when I was like even like a year ago. Um, but so I figure like the catch 22 is like if I find the path to like improving, overcoming various aspects of schizoid personality disorder, um if I discover through my lived experience like and like in combination with like some of the literature and stuff and some of the ideas that it's talking about and in combination with like this understanding that it might be connected, extremely connected to neurodivergency of various kinds and living in a neurotypical world and sensitivities to that, um eventually like okay, I'll have like these answers. Hopefully I can present them to the proper people. If they listened, they could test them, they could see them, they could theory craft. Cool. um I can do a little bit of coaching because I'm seeing all this improvement, and you know and so yeah, it's like okay, so now I'm gonna like I'm gonna be presenting. I don't yeah, I'm always gonna be like I'm always gonna be like I like this is a weird part. This is gonna sound weird. I like that part of me now that is dysthymic. That's kind of just like in a kind of low grade depression a lot of the time. I like that part of myself because that part of myself, what that shit is my it's my fucking empathy. Like I don't understand how somebody can live in this world and not have at least consistent low grade depression because Jesus Christ. So I kind of respect that part of myself now. I feel like yes, I have every right to feel a bit sad a lot of the time. Look where we are. It ain't great sometimes, to say the least. And then like my fear is that's kind of why I'm thinking I need more Zoids that aren't doing this shit the same way or haven't gotten to the point that I have. And I need to like interview them and talk to them. They have their own systems, they have their own experiences with it because then they're relatable, right? More relatable to the like to me who's like progressively getting less zoidy. Um but I don't know. That's weird to say cuz I'm still very much like I feel like I'm transitioning from like over the course of time I'm transition from like being like having schizoid PD to just being uh a uh, a person that can connect to themselves emotionally and is incredibly introverted and in like at least in person and just likes a small circle of people that he cares about and can get close to, and that's it. Like I want to be that person. I'm not getting any urges. I'll tell you right now, even though like things are improving in here or in here, I'm not getting any urges whatsoever to go make a bunch of new friends or like go to like festivities with lots of people. It's not making me like being around those people. That's not changing. That hasn't changed at all. And I'm glad for it. It's pretty. It's cool to be able to like keep that and know that's just me. Um, that's somebody that I become as well, and then still be able to like work on shit like anhedonia, evolution, depression, anxiety associated to it, periods of just numbness and cold rage over like you know everything. Um, that's another thing that I think is interesting too is that that's probably the reason like I was talking to my psych about the reason why I imbibe a little too much. Usually, it's like exclusively in the evening, right? Like once like 9 p.m. hits or so, like I'm having a drink. I don't get shit faced every night, but I do have a drink. But I do get shit faced more often than I should. And I was talking to my psych about like why I do this, right? And I used to say this here. I used to tell her, well, part of the reason I would drink is for whatever fucking reason, when I would drink, I would like feel like more focused and motivated to do whatever it is I'm doing until like I get too much and then I'm just like sloppy. But before that point, I get like really focused and motivated and really into what I'm doing. And I almost like feel my activities more, right? That's how I describe it, right? And then also like if I was depressed though and I drink, I get really fucking bad. And some of my buddies out there know how bad I can get, right? And if I was in a decent mood, it would turn into a good mood, right? And so I was like, okay, it must be because, I don't know, it has a weird effect on me or something. But I was talking to my psych and I'm like, dude, um, I told her like, yo, this is like fucking straight up connected to the same fucking thing like I just been talking about this whole time. It literally what does alcohol do for a lot of people? It lowers inhibitions, which can sometimes be really bad depending on the person. It lowers my inhibitions, and my inhibitions are me fucking keeping my inner child fucking in a straitjacket. Apparently, the feelings in a straitjacket, that sense of like vulnerable self, and so like it's like an artificial way of like temporarily like letting the walls break down a bit because I'm like I'm drinking, so like I'm like, just let that kid, that inner kid, just let him run around for a bit. Fucking cares. Just let him run around. That's fucking depressing, dude. It might also explain to some degree why when I'm around somebody that's having like a very emotional time, especially if it's reasonable and it's something that like, especially if it's something that was out of their control and they're having a horrible time crying, whatever. And I'm like around it, I I just go stone cold. It, but I still move, right? I still take action, but I'm like very clinical and I'm very like just, right. And I'm thinking that's it's not just, oh, I just learned whatever to like, oh, be the Ubermensch that can handle situations that are disastrous, right? It's it's that I feel like it's reminding me of my sensitivity that I like keep locked away because I'm seeing them like bawling and having a horrible time because of something, especially like I said, something they had no control over, or something circumstance or something, some stressors that they have no, you know. Jesus, the camera just went crazy there. All right, I know I like to do this in the dark. It's like the aesthetic or whatever. I'm spooky. It's a spooky month. And so, not, but I'm always spooky. Uh, the Yeah, I was saying the motivation. I still do the action, but I feel like maybe that's part of the reason I get stone cold when I'm around something emotional and just kind of process the situation. Uh, because it's like reminding me of something unconsciously, like because it like snaps, like it kicks in. Another reason why if I'm actually like tapped in for whatever, like if somebody else is around me, excluding my wife, um, and for my kids, I just can't be a mess with them. Um, like I just go like, pooh, like, oh, nope, can't see that. You're making shit up. That shit didn't happen. Just wild to think that like all of this could mean that I'm just sitting. I'm like I'm just a very sensitive person. Like the literally the opposite of what I ever thought I really was. But the cool thing is I feel like I now have the tools to adjust and protect and um, navigate that sensitivity and even utilize and weaponize. No, but I mean, really, yeah, you can kind of weaponize it in a positive, like protect sort of way. What is the fundamental schism if not with that child self? Yeah, but it's like it's always like that child self or that sensitivity, but it's just that from the get-go, I think that was a pretty sensitive kid in there. Like more sensitive than like the average kid. And they're sensitive to things that people aren't sensitive to. So when people aren't sensitive to something, guess what? They don't give a shit and they ignore it and they think it's weird or they can't recognize it. And what kind of sensitive child would that be? Or a divergent one? Hmm. All right. Well, I see it's dropped down to about 10 people. I had like 16 for a second there. Pretty cool. Hope people watch this as a VOD. I hope it's useful to some of you guys listening out there. If you think I'm full of shit, that's fine. If you think I'm dead wrong, that's fine. If you want to say, oh, maybe this guy wasn't ever schizoid because look at him now, that's okay. Um, all that's fine by me. And I'm glad this. I'm kind of glad it's fine by me. I like that. Necessary violence. I'm glad you exist. Normally that would make me like uncomfortable, like 2 months ago. Like it would just make me like cringe. Now I just go, Yeah, that's cool. Not getting a surge of like emotion or reward out of it, but it's cool. It's like shifting into like a more neutrality instead of an aversion. It's nice. It's really nice. And for those of you that are interested, um, I don't know, and listen and watch everything, like I hope I'm helping you on that path if it's similar or helpful. If not, then fuck, stop watching me. I guess I'm not providing you shit. I'm not even, and it's not like I'm the most entertaining person either. So, um, okay, well, I think I've made peace with that. Nobody really hopped on to talk, which is fine. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is why I wish like I was interested or had the time to edit stuff because I feel like, oh man, I could just edit some of my streams and then like I don't know, turn that into like a 10-minute clip or something, or clips like what like it one like 10-minute, 15-minute spot that was like said something useful, and then just like turn that into something that I just put out on its own. Oh man. All right, guys. Well, I think I said my piece. By the way, I got this new Blackcraft shirt. It's fucking rad. Oh, bro. It's got a cool eyeball. I would take like if I somehow this channel got even a little bit bigger and there were, I'll fucking shield Blackcraft because I actually if you look them up, they're really cool like philosophy. Um, they're like I think it's a like they're Satanists, but like they're like very much into like morality and ethical behavior and like um, even animal life, all kinds of shit. They're pretty fucking cool. Even if they're being edgy about it. Goddamn, are they being edgy sometimes? I don't really get the edgy shirts. I think they're a little cringe, but whatever. To each their own. Um. Well, anyway, if you want to support me, if you like the stream, if you like what I talk about, please support me on Patreon, guys. It helps. I got like a fucking stupid bill coming up because of the every quarter I gotta pay. Dude, I haven't even like. Oh, it's so fucking annoying. I sent out the like all the tax exemption stuff for the NPO thing that I want to get going, and it's gonna take a long time. But that's gonna take like a few months. But while I wait those months, like every quarter, I still have to like pay the filing company that like keeps all my shit together because I can't. I don't have time to keep. I got fucking ADHD. I ain't got time for the fucking keeping track of all these deadlines, all the shit, making sure of this. And you have to have like an agent on retainer as any kind of NPO. You have to have like this agent on retainer thing or something. And I don't know, man. I don't know. And and there's like so much shit you can fuck up unless you know what you're doing, and then you'll just like end up like slowing shit down even more. Whatever. So if anybody has a few Starbucks or is already on Patreon, thank you. Appreciate it. I have a PayPal. It's listed, I think, in the thing. Um, so any kind of donations will be appreciated. And eventually, once I get that tax exempt, I have to figure out a way to somehow get a hold of, I don't know, maybe the parents, like maybe some Zoids out there. It's got some rich parents that want to like use my idea on what I'm doing to, write off their taxes. And since it'll be tax exempt, then none of that shit will go to the government, like because I won't get taxed, so it'll all go to like this, and then they can just write that shit off, since it's like an official nonprofit organization. So, recognized by the state and all that, and the Fed. Um, but yeah, it's called for those of you who don't know, it's called streamlining cognitive partnerships. It's gonna be like more like stuffy, because obviously I can't just be like, hey, this is the fucking thing. Welcome to the community for the Zoids. Like, that shit's not gonna pan out very well. Trying to get like somebody to invest in it. Um, yeah, I got a lot of ideas, but it's a joke too because it's SCP, and I really like SCPs, and it's more fun because then if you're part of it, you're an SCP, or like, oh yeah, I'm part of the SCP, or I'm an SCP. So it's kind of fun. I think it's fun. It's cheesy, nerdy shit, but I think it's fun. Join the SCP. Uh, Finally back home in time to show up at the end. Yeah. Sorry, it's over, Shadow. But Shadow. Even though you couldn't join, I recommend checking it out after when you have a chance, like whatever. I think I said some stuff that was pretty handy to some degree. I had some notes in there in between some of the shit I probably like said before. That might be useful. All right, guys. Peace out. And also remember, if for some reason like you want a one-on-one with me and you want to talk about these zoidy struggles and you want to just like hate using the term because I can't use any other term because I'm not a therapist. So the only like legal term I could use is I'm a life coach, guys. Like it just sounds so stupid. But yeah, I'm like a Zoid coach. So if you think you're dealing with certain things that are very Zoidy, I basically like to use my understanding, my experience, get what you're telling me about it, and then try to see if something can be pieced together. Make a little plan to tackle a little thing at a time as needed. And it's not a consistent thing. It's like a whenever you want. Very autonomy oriented. So it's like, oh, just pay me for that one. And if you want to set something up for another time, I'll pencil it in, or you just come back when and do that whenever. And yeah, because I live in Cali and everything. And dude, I looked at some of those like life coaches, how much they charge for shit. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what are they doing, dude? Like, I guess they gotta charge that much to make it a living, but like, damn. Like, it'll be like, oh, like, like, 10 sessions with your life coach, fucking $1,000. It's like, what the fuck? You're only meeting them like for an hour, like once a week to get the life coach lessons. I'm like, hell no, dude. So I just like $30. $30 an hour. Wanted 2 hours? I'll give it to you for 50. I'll cut you a deal. Want to do 3? Want to buy the package? You want to get the package deal? Oh my god. I tried to have a Fiverr at one point, and that's just annoying. And nobody wants to go on a fucking website when you could just be like, hey, just DM me. It's like, okay. You end up having to like fucking report all this shit anyway in the end because of fucking stupid, you know, PayPal and shit. So anyway, all right, guys. And if you want to join me, I know no one's really ever interested. I'm gonna finish this. I'm thinking I'm gonna finish it. This game called Manduan, which is really fucking cool, and I love it. It's like one of the coolest ideas for a game ever. What they did and stuff with it. I'm gonna finish that up, and I'll probably play something else or chat on whatever while I'm playing. If you guys want to chat it up on something or whatever, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. But I'll be in the Inks Likes Awful Media channel. All right, as usual, when day is dark, always remember